If you smell what the truck is cooking.
A Devon Street exclusive.
All right, very good. And that was actually going to be the first thing I wanted to mention, because the smiley face, I literally painted that last week when we were in lockdown here in Adelaide. And I was like, I need some inspo. I need some like really simple things to draw. And I was like, fuck, the push ball boy is like smiley face. So easy to do. And I've just put like my own little touch on it there, as you can see.
Yeah, I love that.
Can you see the other painting or not? Or am I cut off like right here?
No, I can't see the other painting.
Pretty big rig, bro.
Yeah, you got that
damn.
broad shoulders of yours covering it.
The vest actually, the vest helps as well. I'm literally like a fridge, can't fit through the front door most of the time. So, no. So the first question that I usually ask, unless I forget, obviously, is, and I usually actually prompt my guests with the question beforehand, but I was like, nah, I'm gonna spring this one on the boys, and this can go one way or the other. Did you boys follow? Did you boys follow WWE growing up?
Yeah,
you did.
I'm pretty. I'm pretty big.
Yeah. I'm not actually too big on it, but the other guy, Big Georgie, who works for us, he loves it.
We got to go working hard outside. We have to bring him in.
We might have to bring him in. He loves WWE, so he
perfect
knows a lot about
special appearance. So my question always is for every guest, because I feel like I guess it's like the theme of the podcast. It's sort of like an icebreaker. The first question I ask. So, growing up, who was your favorite WWE wrestler? We'll start with you, Jesse. If you had to choose one, you had to choose one.
It has to be Rey Mysterio.
Oh, that's stitch up. That was mine as well. 619.
Yeah.
Hey!
I used to go to the market. I was a real little kid, and I'd see like the leather masks that like you could get.
Yeah.
I really wanted that. Yeah, I remember.
So,
Rey Mysterio as well. I'm not like that into it, but I do remember he's a pretty athletic guy.
Yeah.
So I thought I was a bit like back in the day. And then obviously Nacho Libre does a few things as well. Loves a bit of nacho. He's a bit cheeky as well wrestling. So
It's funny you both say that, because you guys this is episode 12 right now, and I'd actually have to go back and count, because I reckon you two are maybe like 5 and 6 that have chosen Rey Mysterio. So there's a trend going on here. There's a trend going on. I don't know what. And I feel like I've said this. This is probably like going to be the 5th or 6th time that I've actually said this. Is that I don't know what it is about Rey Mysterio, but like I guess as a kid you kind of like, it's like that superhero, kind of like mysterious. Don't really know what he you don't know what he looks like under the mask, and you almost want the other person to Siri's talking to me. You're almost like, as a kid, you want like his opponent to like just rip the mask off him just to actually see what he looks like. Like I always used to look up on YouTube Rey Mysterio without mask, like all the time.
We actually know what he looks like. Is he retired?
Yeah, he's like real old and like South American.
Yeah, well, he still wrestles. He actually.
He's still going around.
I'm gonna have to in the edit. I'm gonna have to like put like a photo of Rey Mysterio up without a mask on, just so like everyone can actually see what he looks like.
Love that. And I'll watch it and see his face for the first time, so it'll be exciting for me as well.
Exactly. Well, it's actually kind of underwhelming, because it's just like, he's just a normal guy under the mask.
Don't say that.
I know.
Is he good?
Decent. Yeah. He's got a wife.
That's all right.
He's got a wife and a kid, I'm pretty sure. So he's done all right for himself.
Doing better than us.
Yeah.
I'm the exact same. Don't worry. So we might as well dive right into it straight away. I wanted to sort of start with things that maybe weren't related to the brand, just so we can I want the platform to be so when people listen, they can actually find out a bit more about you guys. So in the long run, I guess they can obviously your supporters already, and then I guess future supporters of your brand know more about you guys. So we'll start with you, Vincent, on the right, or it's on my right. I don't know how this video is going to end up looking. In the black hoodie, that might help. So Vincent, growing up, outside of push pull, outside of the brand, growing up and I guess up until now, what were your main interests, would you say?
Definitely sport. Loved sport. Played a lot of sport growing up.
Yeah.
A lot of footy, cricket, bit of basketball. So yeah, definitely think sport was my biggest passion growing up, and then probably just socialising and hanging out with mates. That's probably the two things I loved, and also family.
And a little bit of
love my
WWE
family.
sprinkled in as well, maybe.
A little bit of WWE sprinkled in. Rey Mysterio 619 off the wall. So yeah, it was good.
Jesse, what about you, mate? What interests outside of, I guess, fashion and stuff?
Mate, it's pretty much mirrored exactly what Vincent said.
Oh,
I promise you we're not the same guy, but footy, basketball, cricket, mates, bit of school in between.
Had the
And if you're both...
and the family.
Sorry, I lost you there for a minute. Hopefully I don't lose you forever. So
No, you're good.
outside of, I guess in terms of like what I'm trying to, I guess the main question what I was trying to ask is like, outside of, have you always grown up with the same sort of friendship group and stuff, or did you guys sort of become friends a bit later in life, or?
Yes. So that's a good question. Me and Vinny met at about 21. I'm a year older than Vinny, so maybe I was slightly older. Somewhere around that age. It was about three years ago now.
I've known him through the trap, so just because Jesse's best mate growing up through school, I used to play footy with. So I'd see Jesse sometimes when I got invited to.
I think the first time me and Vinny ever like properly met, we played a game of basketball. Speaking of which, so like good friend of mine was like the link between me and Vinny, who was also a good friend of Vinny's, and then we just went down to the park. I believe it was in like a summer's day somewhere, and just put up some hoops. I don't think that's an actual saying. But we got some.
Was it a game of 1-on-1 or was it teams?
We versed some guys on the court. Remember?
Oh, yeah,
was that time we versed those guys?
There was definitely that. I reckon that might have been one of the first times.
I did a bit of like a Kyrie Irving like layup as well, which I think really got Jesse aroused. So the bond sort of formed from there. I think.
Nice.
For a reverse layup.
Yeah, it was nice.
So have you both always grown up in Melbourne, or did you sort of ship in a little bit later in life, or?
Yeah, both Melbourne guys.
Yeah, Melbourne.
Yeah, very nice. So I don't even know if I've made you aware. I'm actually from Adelaide. I don't know. That should have been maybe one of the first things I told you. Yeah. Yeah.
We've done alright.
Yeah, very good. So have you ever been to Adelaide before, or is it like it's just like you've flown over the top of it?
It was a one and done. The City of Church. Yeah. No, it was good. It was interesting.
Yeah.
I think the proverbial Ibis Hotel for a weekend and a few red squares and that club with the ball and panic. I don't know. It was all a bit of a blur, but it's an interesting place.
I like the sound of that. So I guess in terms of like, I sort of want to, the way I want to, I guess, gradually go into talking about the brand and everything. Have you boys always been, I guess, somewhat creative? Has it always sort of been there? Or is that something you sort of discovered a little bit later in life, would you say?
You want to go?
I'll
you start.
Do you want me to kick it off? Yeah. So I've always sort of been into fashion in terms of like dressing nicely and all that sort of jazz. Not in terms of like creative, like creating stuff and being artistic. I sort of found that later in life. I just sort of during school just conformed to what my mates were doing and didn't really challenge any of those stereotypes. And then when me and Jesse sort of linked, that's when I started to at that, it was funny how we both sort of connected at the same time, where I was actually trying to start my own thing and do my own creative sort of thing, and then Jesse was as well. And we both just sort of linked, and then from there I haven't really looked back. And I just love trying to be creative as I can. And it's a really cool aspect of life, sort of opening that part of your brain, and brings a lot of joy, a lot of stress as well, but a lot more joy. Yeah,
absolutely. What about you, Jesse? Have you sort of been on this like a similar path, or?
Slightly different, I would say. I think growing up, both my parents have been artists, which is really interesting. Dad's sprinkled a bit of teaching in with all that, bit of art teaching, bit of English teaching, but like their main love is art. And anyone that's come to my house, seeing that there's just art sort of flying off every wall and sculptures and things of that nature. So I grew up with that. I'll be honest though, I probably wasn't like a natural at that. Like both sort of my siblings and stuff were all really talented drawers and, like good with their hands, but that wasn't really me. So I kind of had to come at it from a different sense, and it probably at a later time in life. Like I didn't do any school kind of arty stuff, any like of that sort of 3-4 sort of folio work. So yeah, kind of similar to Vince in that regard, getting into it later on, but I guess the influence was always there from my family.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I guess like I'm definitely, I'm probably more on the path of like what Vincent was saying. And I've spoken about it a fair bit in a few other episodes as well. Like, I have sort of, I guess like you said, Vincent, like unlocked the creative part of my brain. And until you actually do that, and start creating things of your own, like it genuinely does like bring joy for you, like for not only for yourself, but like when you're creating things for other people. It's really, really cool. Like that's a really good way of putting out things. So do you sort of I guess tying on from that question, have you had any like jobs out? Obviously, push pull, it's not a job. It's your thing that you do. But like before or like now, have you had any like jobs that have been within like, I guess like the creative sort of realm? Like, do you do any, I was going to ask if you do any like freelancing designs. I don't even know if you boys do your designs yourselves or if you have someone else in your team that does them. So have you had any sort of, I guess, jobs within the creative industry, or have they all sort of been jobs sort of just to pay the bills?
I've never done anything like I've never had a job really entailed any of this sort of stuff. So I sort of came into push pull to bring my sort of creative side, I guess. And it's been a really cool journey, I feel like. I've learned so much, continuously learning. I've failed so much as well. Yeah. Constantly failing, but getting so much better from that. I'm really self-taught. Like I've self-taught myself like everything. And I find that because I haven't studied art and design, obviously I fail a lot more, but I feel like a lot of the things I create are more instinctual and more less thought out, which I feel like is more artistic to me. And I feel like I'm able to create pieces or concepts or ideas that don't have too much reference to it because I haven't studied anything, but I feel like it comes from my gut. And I really believe that when things come from my gut, that's when they're at their most raw and at their most beautiful. That's just from my experience. But through doing push-pull, I'm constantly learning. So I feel like I am sort of studying at the moment as well. That's my sort of answer to that.
Yeah, for sure.
Pretty similar. Like fun, like a sprinkle a bit of humor in like maybe one of my only creative jobs is when I was say 13, 14 or 15, around that period of my life. I started a Facebook page called Cheap Clothing Australia. It's probably still up there somewhere in the archives.
I'll have to go looking.
And I used to go to we'll dig it up. There's some wild things going on there. And I would go up shops, find like, I don't know, some designer piece of clothing, something like that, to like go to like bring it home and then just like take photos, try to sell it for like triple that or whatever I bought it for. And I did that with like, I don't know, I guess the success of a 14-year-old, it paid enough for like, I don't know, maybe a pair of shoes or something.
That's cool.
A few chockies.
A few on the way on. So that was probably the really creative thing I ever did before push pull.
Yeah, cool. So I was going to say this a little bit for later, but like one of the questions I sort of had for you, Jesse, a little bit later on, I'll just say it now because otherwise I'll forget. Would you say that like, and because you were mentioning before necessarily sort of your siblings, they've been the ones that have been like more creative with whether it be with their hands or whatever. Would you say that you'd like, because it seems from my perspective, this is obviously the first time we're meeting over the computer screen, but would you say that you're quite like business minded?
Yeah, I would say so. I think, I studied business. I finished the degree. So, I mean, from
cool. There you go. You got something to prove for it.
Yeah. I'll bring you a piece of paper, Rock. You can have it. So I studied that, and I think just having like older brothers and stuff like that, and I've always just been into that for a while, and I think that was part of the reason bringing Vinny on. I really saw that raw art in him, and just like ideas that I just thought people would love, and I just thought maybe we could team up together, and I could sort of figure out a way to financially make that work, and Vinny could just sort of cut loose and bring his creative sense, and we've managed to make that work really well.
Yeah, sick. So I guess getting on to your like the team as such. So you guys, I guess, when would you say that you were established? Was it about 2018, 2019?
Yes, good question. So the history of push-pull is sort of a convoluted, confusing type of thing. So best way to describe it was we started off with vintage clothing because like that is sort of what we all loved and knew. And at that time, there was about 5 or 6 of us. This was I reckon it was right at the beginning of 2019, maybe at the end of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And it was me and a bunch of friends, and we'd all love vintage clothes for a really long time. We'd sort of dabbled in selling it, like sort of on Depop or whatever like that. And then we just thought, if we got really serious about doing this, because we knew where to source it, we traveled to America, Japan, things like that. We just thought, why don't we give it a crack? Because we're young and this would be cool. And we did it, and it was good. But I call vintage clothing sort of like a vicious cycle. I mean, it's like most sustainable thing you can do, and the brands are amazing, and the clothing, like some of the best pieces of clothing you'll ever see. But it's just really hard from like a business perspective to go source it, and it's tedious and all that. And I think even one that not many people think about is if you sell like a beautiful vintage Nike jumper, right, and it's like amazing, and you sell it, you make a great profit, whatever it is, and then someone wears that jumper, no one knows where they bought that from.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to grow a vintage business. So my hat goes off to all those vintage sellers out there because it's like that's a real grind.
Yeah.
Serious grind.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yep.
I was actually watching because I was just doing a little bit of further research before today, and I was watching the video. It's on the Push Pull Insta when you were thrift shopping in America with your dad, and you went to like 10 different places, and it took like the whole day. And I've obviously So Harrison and I, who I actually live with, I'm currently sitting pretty much in my kitchen right now. You wouldn't be able to tell, but so I live with my best friend Harrison, and we have like our own small brand as well. And so to actually, like you said, really, I watched that video of you just going around thrifting, and obviously the idea is to then move it as vintage stock.
Right.
I guess the point I'm trying to make is like that grind is like I really have like a sound respect for it, I guess, because like it's just the man hours to actually just be able to do that is crazy. So I guess like it's probably what I was going to jump to next. So do you have like I've obviously noticed right now the brand is purely just push pull when you're creating your own clothing. So when did the vintage side of it sort of come to a halt? Did you sort of just have to make a bit of a business decision and say it's not like really scalable in terms of what you want to get out of it in the long run?
Yeah, 100%. That's sort of it in a nutshell. We did it for like a good year. I think we literally attended 35 to 40 events from like festivals, markets, pop-up stores around Melbourne. Like we really gave it a good go, and it was awesome. Like I think the best part about it, and it's sort of why we have such a strong, almost cult following at Push Pull, is we met so many people in that first year at markets and at festivals and all those places.
Yeah.
And that's sort of invaluable to really meet people when you're a young business. It really helps you grow with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Like that's like to be able to actually, and I know now because we I guess our title for Devon Street is like clothing and events. And we've probably hosted maybe, I think it's like 4 events now. But like the events themselves are like so invaluable to actually growing your following and everything, and being able to, like you said, being able to meet people face to face. Like it just doesn't have the same effect over like your Instagram account or whatever. As much as you try, like it just doesn't have the same effect. And I guess, and that's a lot of the reason why I decided to do this podcast as well, is because the further you can like, I guess, personalize your brand and show everything behind it, that's the stuff that people are interested in, would you say?
100%, man.
Yeah.
So well said. I think, Vinny can speak a little bit about, and I'm sure you'd be super aware of it, Brock, just like how difficult planning and conducting an event is.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So that was what I just remembered the question I was going to ask before I move on. How big is your team currently? So it's you two, and then how many other people do you have?
We have one main other. We'll bring him in. He needs to show his face.
Show his face.
Georgie.
George. Is he there?
George.
He's knocked off.
Come on,
Georgie.
He'll come in. He's one of those guys. You gotta like push him in.
Come on,
here he comes. He's getting in. You gotta give him a real pull. He'll love it.
I thought it.
Show your face.
I thought he'd.
This is our number one team member.
I thought he'd knocked off already. I thought you boys had told him to go home.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Big rocker.
Hey man, what's going on?
Not much. I like your vest.
Thank you.
And the little smiley face, little painting up top. They're doing a few things.
Yeah, this small brand that I actually found. They're from Melbourne, so I'll have to like link you their Instagram and stuff.
They seem like good blokes.
Great blokes. We'll send George away, but yeah,
He's famous worker.
He crawled out of the cave.
Beautiful. So how would you, I don't know, I was actually, because when I was in Melbourne 2 to 3 weeks ago, I don't know if you're aware of the brand like Snakehole from Mornington.
Vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, so I went down there and did a podcast with those boys, and they're like, I think 9, almost 10 years in as a clothing brand now. And it was just a really interesting, like the chat was just like so beneficial, and I learnt so much from the perspective of like being 10 years in, I guess. So one of the main questions I asked them was, how did you, I guess, like specify what your role was within the duo? Because they're a duo as well. So do you boys have you specified, I guess, your strengths and weaknesses and stuff, and what your role exactly is?
Yeah, it's something we've been doing a lot more as of late. It helps a lot. And I guess you touched on it before. I guess I sort of run perhaps more like business decisions and, finances and stuff. And Vincent will be more on the creative design front and garments and all that type of thing.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, very nice. So, and what's George do whilst I'm at it?
Nothing. No,
he does more of the social media and video content sort of stuff. So he's been dominating that for us.
It's
don't tell him.
That's
he'll ask for rate.
That's definitely a side of things. Is like as a small clothing brand, that's definitely like when you're trying to, 1, produce the garments, 2, do all the all the shoots and everything. Like the amount of like responsibility within that is just so much, and the importance of actually like delegating the roles is just so important to be able to like, I guess, grow as a brand rather than just being, I guess, just feeling stagnant. Would you say?
I couldn't agree more. I think like me and Vincent sort of ran the ship for a year on our own, and it was going like we could see the growth and we're happy with everything. Then we realized, I think we saw obviously, such a modern day thing with social media. Like, we need to really put an emphasis, as we sort of were from day one. But that was just, we knew we needed to continue to do that. So, George being a long-term friend, I just knew he was the right fit for us. Just being a great person. And it's just been like George has helped in so many different facets, and even things like now more than ever is just responding. And that's a big part of our brand. I think you probably get that, Brock. We're just trying to be more than just that company that gives you like a t-shirt that you wear. We want them to, we try to build that community, and that's a lot of different things. But one main thing, I guess, is responding to everyone and treating everyone with like a certain level of respect. Yeah, which is very difficult when there's a lot of people around. Yeah,
for sure.
We do our best.
No, I agree. It's it's very like I said, as a small brand, it's like just the smallest things matter so much. Like you said, like if you're someone buys your garment, like that means so much to you. So you want to like give them extras because it's only going to benefit you in the, like, I guess in the long run anyway. So
100%.
yeah. So are you boys in, like, do you boys have like your own sort of little office space now, or in like?
We do.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, cool.
You want a little?
Yeah, give us a tour.
I'll give you a little clothing rack.
Sick.
Bit of plant. Bit of a mural there. A little bit of a plant. That's George's face, just in case you're wondering. Another plant there. And me and Vincent.
Sick. The reason I thought I'd bring that up is because obviously, like I say, Harris and I live together. Everything that we do is just like everything's stored in the garage, and I podcast in the living room usually. But we've sort of been, I guess, sort of looking recently to like try and find like a smaller space. And I guess my way of thinking about it is, do you feel like now that you have, like, even though albeit it's a small, tiny little office space, do you feel like it's more, you can get up out of bed, leave your house and sort of go to work, I guess, in a sense? Like, do you feel like that sort of helped?
Yeah, 100% it helps. Just, it makes it more sort of realistic and more official. And we were operating out of like each other's house for the first few years. So obviously you need to do that in the immediate terms. But yeah, once we were able to find a space, like, yeah, it's awesome. It's just a space where we all can connect and sort of become in sync, and really just know that when we're in here, we're working. Although we're having a lot of fun, we're working. And then, you know, when we're out of the office, that's when we can really switch off. And although we don't really, which we need to get better at, we sort of can, go home or go out for dinner and really switch off. And then, the next day we know we're coming back in and, we're writing the things we need to do and really sort of ticking them off and, just getting real in sync. In sync's the key thing.
Yeah, for sure. I guess like the one thing, I guess last sort of thing I wanted to touch on in terms of like business and stuff. Do you have like, and this is a question that when Harrison and I first started doing our thing, I guess, do you necessarily have like, and we understand now the importance of it, like in terms of understanding like what your marketing strategy might be and stuff. And I know that obviously a lot of that ties in with, I guess, like having someone to help you run your social media and everything. Like, would you say that you put a lot of time into like, okay, this is what our marketing strategy is going to be? Or is it more just like, we just make it all about whatever we can do for the community? I guess that's probably a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I would say a little bit of both. It's definitely, I think as you get bigger, you do need a plan.
Yeah.
At the beginning, it's certainly like anything we can do for the community. Being at events is great content, meeting people. Because obviously you got to, a bit of trial and error is like everything, isn't it? Like you just got to sort of see what works. Okay, like people don't like this thing on, posting about that, so maybe we'll post about this. But nowadays we plan out every photo shoot. We think about like, of course, like, who might match the garments and all that type of thing. Yeah, everything's pretty methodical. But in saying that, they're just sort of starting points. Like as soon as we sort of know location, what model and what garment, then we want them to be like completely free and feeling like themselves.
Yeah, for sure. This is like, I'm sort of changing gears a bit here. What would you say, and I'm just going to hit you with this question right up, what would you say is your biggest sort of inspiration for the brand? Like if you're going through your own personal Instagram feed, do you have like one or two brands or different artists, I guess, even like that you sort of look up to and sort of draw inspiration from?
I certainly know Vincent's. I do know mine. Yeah, mine. I'll go real quick. Mine's two people. It's Sean Witherspoon and Kid Super. They're two LA and New York based brands. Brooklyn, if we want to be specific. I love what they bring. Had the pleasure of sort of spending like not much time with both of them, but being in their presence for a little bit and just seeing how they operate. And I just think they just challenge the status quo, and that's what we try to do.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, mine's like in terms of just inspiration, like Virgil Abloh.
Cool.
Like, obviously he's a big same, but definitely just love like his thinking and just his perspective on things, and just his creativeness. I'm just in awe of it, and I don't know. He's a massive inspiration for me, and also like Kid Super and Sean Witherspoon. Probably my first into like real sort of fashiony sort of inspiration was probably Sean Witherspoon through Jess, like introducing me to his sort of brand and stuff like that, and then having the chance to go to America and actually go to his stores and buy some of his stuff and how it made me feel. It was a pretty cool feeling, and I hope that what we're doing here is sort of representing that sort of same feeling. It's like more than just buying a clothes, you're buying into the community, but into this community. The massive thing I feel about like our garments as well, it's like, or our journey, or what we're trying to do is I really want to push people to like have a go at trying to be creative, or start their own business, or I just really hope that there's kids out there who are sort of looking at us and being like, God, I can do this, or we're in my position not doing anything creative, and knew they probably had it in them, and going like, oh God, I don't need to care what my friends think. I can go do what I sort of want. And I hope that our garments and what we do really embodies that. And I hope that sort of felt through the community. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And it's actually like, it ties in so well with, I've been on like a real trend over the last probably like 1 to 2 months of, and it sounds, the way I'm about to put it sounds a bit like, yeah, whatever. But like, in terms of actually discovering what your purpose is in life, and that you can sort of you got to take it obviously, I guess, with a grain of salt, that sort of statement. But until you actually really sort of dive into discovering what your interests are in life, then that's when like, and I was going to say you might feel a bit lost, and I still feel lost now, even though I understand what my purpose is. But if you understand what your purpose is, then you can sort of drive that towards creating something of your own, I guess, whether it be like a small brand or just like a small business in general. But yeah, like it's just interesting because actually, and I spoke about it with the Snakehole boys, like actually understanding what your interests are and like, I guess what your purpose is in life, and then actually to see them 10 years down the track, like they're 33 and 32 now, and they started doing it when they were about, I think, 23, 24. And they still have like the exact same love and passion for what they're doing as when they started. And I guess as like, and you boys would definitely agree, like to be on, obviously, I guess like a similar path to what they are like obviously still on, and to see them so far along and be even more passionate now compared to when they first started, it's like, it's sort of, I guess, almost like validates the way you're feeling when you're at the early stages of doing something creative or starting something for yourself.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, but I guess, sorry, you go, mate.
No, I was going to say there's not much more to add to that. You said it so well.
No, like, I've said it about 1 million times now, so I'm like, it's just like rehearsing over in my head.
That's the best.
Yeah. So I guess moving on from that, I wanted to speak more about like your pop-up events your pop-up shops and events that you've done. How many actual pop-up shops have you done to date? Is it about? I know like lately it's been very like really hard to do it, but have you
like just pop-up selling clothes? Probably like, well, we're supposed to run one in like next week, but that's been pushed back. We ran most of them in obviously 2019. I think we did about 4 or 5 in 2019.
Yeah.
Which was our first year, and that was predominantly vintage clothing. The last 2 would have had sort of our first T-shirts that we'd ever done, things like that.
Yeah, cool.
Vincent giving it a go on winter.
In the Italian garage with the salamis hanging up.
Yeah, cool.
So I'd probably say anywhere from like 5 to 7, I think, off the top of my head.
Yeah, cool. And I guess the reason I sort of wanted to bring that up is like we've and I guess like for whether there be other small brands out like listening to this as well, because it's like, and I know you guys definitely get bombarded with the same messages of people hitting you up and wanting to know like how to start a small brand, or just really, I guess, simple questions that have answers that are a little bit long-winded. And the reason I wanted to bring up like pop-up, like talk about your pop-up shops and events and stuff, and I know you briefly touched on it earlier, would you say that like they are very important to actually growing a following, I guess?
Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, just as valuable as going to a market, and that's the thing. You don't have to have $500 to rent out a place for a night. Like you can go to Camberwell Market, which is like a big market in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Which is like $7 for a Sunday, and spend that money. And you might like, I mean, there's so many times where we'd make probably like a couple $100 if that, like literally just sort of cover that money that we put down, and then meet maybe just, you'd have to still remember now, like the boys I was with at the time, I'm like, guys, like we need to tell people that are interested in like this fashion, that like we have an Instagram, we're just starting off.
Yeah.
And it seems cringy, but it's like, some people react not everyone reacts well to that, but like the people that do are like, cool, like, because I think Melbourne and Australia sort of like we all have so much like fashion inside of us, and I think now with like the globalization, and like with us being so connected with America and the UK, like we're all into that music and fashion, and we see it all over social media, but we sort of suppress it. Like we're like, oh, we're just Australia, we're just 24 million people in a country that's so far away from everything. But it's like, fuck that. It's like, I know you love fashion, and so many people have such wealth of knowledge about like crazy fashion, and there's just so much there, but we're very sort of underwhelming human beings here.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's like I reckon it's got a lot to do with like the whole tall poppy syndrome thing that is like massive in Australia. Like if you stand out from the rest, then you're just going to get like chopped down sort of thing. Like it's almost, and as you were saying, like everyone doesn't want to be seen as being as really being out there to promote themselves, which as a small business and just in general is fucking stupid, really, because that's like one of the key ways that you're actually going to be able to grow as like it's
100%.
Especially as a small brand or business or whatever it may be. Have you found like being from Adelaide, and I spoke about this with the Snakehole boys as well, because they're obviously, I mean, they're Mornington, but an hour or so out of Melbourne. Being in Adelaide, like, I guess, how would I put it? Being in Adelaide, like the culture is just not quite. It's not that it's non-existent, but there's just, obviously because we're not as anywhere near as saturated in population or anything, the culture, there's just a massive gap there for the culture, essentially. My question to you boys was going to be, how have you found being in Melbourne, growing a small brand where I guess what you're doing is like really, you can tell me how saturated really is Melbourne in, I guess, fashion and what you're trying to do?
It's a really good question. We look at it from a lot of different like perspectives. I mean, we started with vintage clothing, and that's just very saturated, obviously, and with the whole online thing, like you're competing with like, pretty much everywhere. So that's very saturated. Well, I'll answer it like this, because sort of backstepping to what you said about a lot of kids asking us about how they should run brands, and more specifically clothing brands. I like to say, a clothing brand has the lowest barrier to entry. So anyone can, any one of our friends can walk in to a clothing brand, buy a white Gildan t-shirt, put a little screen print on it. They officially own a clothing brand, buy an ABN. After $100 and a few hours of research, like you're technically like a clothing brand, right?
Yeah.
So, but like as opposed to becoming like a law firm, it's a very different way to start. So there is a lot of clothing brands around because of the low barrier to entry. So I guess you have to be very sort of like almost overstated, and that almost ties back into being at those markets and almost pushing people to follow your Instagram. Not pushing, but if they're going to buy something or really compliment a certain piece of vintage, they obviously have a passion for it, right? So it's worth connecting and following up on that connection, and who knows what that creates down the line. I still get the most joy I get out of DMs and messages I read. I read one today. A girl wants to intern with us, and she's like, "I met you guys in 2019 at one of the first festivals we did," and like that just gives me a lot of joy because we obviously had a pretty good connection at that stage. We weren't in our shells, and we're getting out and about and pushing the brand in 2019 where we were making negative money. It was like, why are we running this? This is stupid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%.
So that's my
Yeah, for sure. I guess like going on from that, and I know we spoke about it before in terms of pop-ups that you've done and events and everything. I wanted to ask you about the Beyond the Valley. Would you call it a pop-up that you did at Beyond the Valley?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
I don't know whether you'd call it.
What those things are.
Yeah, like a stall, I guess.
Yeah.
How was
Stall.
how was that experience? Did you just sort of like apply for that, or did you get asked to do it, or?
That's another good question. So I guess this all ties back in. If we're going to give any advice on sort of things, I guess is a good time to do it. This ties again back into what we're talking about. This is why you have to be so confident and like out there with your brand, because I was working at a call center selling energy plans like at that time, and I'd always wear my clothes to the call center. It was a really young environment there, and one of the workers there had a connection to people at Beyond the Valley and like the management there, and she goes, "Well, you sell clothes, right? Like you're really into selling vintage at that stage." I was like, "Yep, absolutely." And she goes, "Well, would you like me to ask the management there for you to be a stall holder?" And I was like, "Absolutely! Like let's go. Any opportunity." And so that's sort of how we fell into that, and it was awesome. I mean, in terms of just like that was one of the biggest steps we took. I got to say, it's really hard in like your first year or two as a small brand. Like everything you get, you've like earned tenfold.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's nothing harder than going up to some like random person at a stall and be like, "Hey, do you reckon you could follow this Instagram?" Like that's so hard.
Yeah.
It's like 6 Monday. Like who knows what you're doing on the Saturday night? Like it's a difficult time, man. So being at Beyond the Valley and just like the energy there and the people we met and just like all the stories and the fun we had, I was like, that kind of brought me closer to the brand where I'm like, I love this. It's like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, for sure. And especially, and it's always those moments because like you said, you have to work like tenfold for them. When you do, I guess, break through, and you achieve the goal that you set out to achieve, it just that's what, and then it really, this is just my experience. When it does happen in your own mind, it's like, fuck, like it really reiterates like exactly why you do it and how badly you want to do it, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, for sure. Just sort of, I guess, I like to ask these questions whenever I talk to, I guess, people that own brands or labels or whatever it might be. Do you have, like right now, who, outside of your own brand, of course, do you have like a favorite up-and-coming brand, whether it be local or nationwide or international? Someone that I like asking this question because then I can like, if I don't, half the time I don't know them, so then I can just like check them out.
Love that. Vinny, we'll both give an answer.
Actually,
it's also, I'll kind of preface it by saying it's really difficult. Like you get so infatuated by your own brand,
100%.
All you think is like every moment.
Yeah.
Like you don't give like really other brands. Like you can't even embrace them like you would have a few years ago.
Yeah.
Because you're just so like with your own thing.
I haven't worn someone else's clothes in like 2 years either.
Wow.
I've just been wearing push every day.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All the get everything. Like like my wardrobe is stocked with push pull things that like people haven't even seen. Like because as I started, I used to screen print, so I'd get like old Levi denim jeans or Ralph Lauren and like put prints on them, and so I've got like a whole collective of a wardrobe of push pull stuff. So,
I guess
for me though, just like where like just I just obtain a lot of inspiration just from like the people we spoke about before, and it's trying to put our own twist onto it, and trying to, I don't know. That's just where I sort of come from at the moment.
And like,
but I definitely would love to research into other brands a lot more.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
What I was going to say was how
actually, there is a brand in America.
whilst you think of
Oh,
it,
what's that one?
we have to plug a good friend of ours who interns
here.
Yeah. We have an intern, so the fourth worker, if you want to call him. His name's Zach. He's not here today. He should be, actually, but he's not. So he's got some off-field issues, but he's running a brand called Remy Market.
Okay.
So if anyone listening, go check it out.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah, he's doing some really dope stuff. He's got some new hats coming out soon. And they're really just, we back it in heavily, and he's worked really effing hard to get where he's at. So go have a look.
Sick.
Remy Market.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'll make sure I run it up, and I'll tell all my mates to run it up as well. So that's sick. We'll definitely sus. So it's interesting you say that in terms of Vincent, about how in your wardrobe you actually, like, everything you own is like your own brand. Like that in itself is probably like it is like a massive I guess, like, not, I don't necessarily see it as like marketing, but it's like when everyone else can see that you are so passionate about your own brand, like, and because that's all that you wear, that kind of, without you necessarily thinking about it, people that see you and you're always in it, they're like, oh shit, like it's legit. Like you're not just doing it. You're not just doing it for, I guess, like extrinsic sort of reasons or factors. Like you're actually doing it because there's like a piece that you need in your wardrobe that you can't find anywhere else. So you just do it yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that. Like a massive thing that I used to say when making a garment or designing something is like, I never do it just to get it out there for like a random sake, just to make a quick buck. Everything I like, every garment that I sort of come up with, or collectively we come up with, it's something that we actually want to wear.
Yeah.
So like before like saying, does my customer want to wear it? Like I ask myself, would I wear it? And like, do I like fuck with it basically?
Yeah.
And then like, if I don't, then I don't think like I'm going to portray that to the customers, or we won't portray that to the customers. So like, and then also I feel like I'm a pretty, like, we're stylish guys. So I feel like we have a cool sort of steez. So I feel like, everything that we come up with is like a massive part of us. And that's sort of why I've built this massive collection in my wardrobe, because like, I don't want to wear anyone else's stuff, because I can just go out and make what I want, and I know I fuck with it. So
for sure. And it's like, just to sort of, I guess, finish up on that sort of point, like that's probably something, and I always like to relate everything back to like what Harrison and I are doing in business and stuff, just to like, because it reiterates the point a bit better. But like, we've never made anything. Also, we've made hats that are completely custom and everything, but we haven't made any other sort of garment that's cut and sew. But it hasn't been until, I guess, this year, the last sort of 2 months, that we've been lining up and working hard on custom cut and sew garments for this summer. And exactly like you said, like that was naturally born purely just out of, for example, say like so I had an event on that was like, I guess, semi-formal sort of cocktail theme, but I was going over to places like David Jones and stuff, and just absolutely, and this is like, I don't have to like say sorry to David Jones or anything, because I don't even know who I'm saying sorry to, but like nothing, I fucking hated everything there. And part of the reason was because I knew everyone else that this event that I was going to go to was going to have the same thing. If that makes sense. Right. So like I guess like the unique, and that's why I've always loved your boys' brand so much, is because like the pieces are just like, they're just coming out of your own mind, obviously, but you're not going to find anything like it anywhere else. And that's like, I guess, the point of difference of what makes them so, I guess, special, and like a necessity that you need in your wardrobe.
100%.
Yeah, well said.
If that makes sense.
You seem to hit the nail on the Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
I guess to sort of tie things up as well, because how long have we been going? We've been going for 50 minutes, so that has flown. To sort of tie things up, where do you see, because I always find this question really interesting, especially for like a small brand. What do you see as being, I guess, like the ultimate goal for your brand? Say within, if you look, and I know we don't like to look too far into the future, but say for example, 5 to 10 years, say 10 years time, do you ever think about, I guess, what might be in the future at all? Like, where do you see the ultimate goal sort of sitting?
I think we all have like different aspects and areas that we want to take this business. It's like a vehicle for us to sort of all put our sort of aspects in and take it to a space. I can speak for myself where from in my field, like where I wanted to go, and then Jesse has his sort of area, and then it sort of all meets up at the top, I guess, which is, so my areas is I just really wanted to be a place, obviously selling garments, but also eventually wanted to be a place to where it's more of like a creative sort of brand where we get a lot of creatives in, and like it's sort of like not like an agency, but like I want it to be like a platform for creatives to express themselves. And that comes in a variety of ways by doing visual media content, getting more creatives in to do collaborations, and really build on a community within Australia and overseas of just a lot of creatives, and really indenting that community.
That's well said. Yeah, for sure. And then I guess from sort of like the retail front, like we'd love to go into state, perhaps to Adelaide. We've got a few loyal customers out there. Shout out to Adelaide.
Absolutely.
Don't stop. Yes. Adelaide's all right. Maybe Sydney as well. There probably are two, and WA as well.
Yeah, for
Queensland
sure.
could lift maybe a little. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, WA. We're keen to go anywhere, really, man. We'd love to do a pop-up probably by the end of the year if that was possible.
There's plenty of room for you here. So if you ever come over, there's a lounge for you to sleep on. We don't have any other spare rooms, but I was going to say, if you ever need anything in terms of actually coming over to Adelaide and getting your name spread out even more, then we're here for you. So other than that,
we love that.
And that's vice versa to Melbourne. And except we're meant to meet up last time. Obviously, COVID stopped that. But when you come out here, Brock, we'll have to catch up. Maybe grab a beer. We'll see.
Absolutely, man.
George will take you out.
Yeah, he's good at that.
And I can sleep on
George or Vince?
I reckon George is sort of the chauffeur, like that.
Yeah, George is good at that stuff.
That's one of his roles that he hasn't fully learnt yet, but you've got to throw him in the deep end.
Okay, very good. That sounds good to me. I'm up for anything. Throw me in the deep end. That's what I actually like. So sounds absolutely brilliant to me. All right, boys. I'm going to let you go because we keep breaking up. But thank you very, very much. Hopefully I get this episode out next week for everyone to have a crack on. So thank you very much, boys. I really appreciate it.
Have a good day.
Let's catch up.